Today, we're diving into a fascinating and, well, pretty wild tragicomic play from Togo. It's a story about what happens when one very, very special cow goes missing, and how that one disappearance spirals into a full-blown national crisis. It kicks off with a massive party, and believe me, it ends in total chaos. And right out of the gate, you get a sense of just how special this cow is. This quote, it's from the village chief, a guy who sees his cow, Ramata, as nothing short of a scientific miracle. I mean, to him, she's a prodigy beyond modern tech. His completely over-the-top pride, well, it sets the stage perfectly for the absurdity that's about to unfold. So let's set the scene, shall we? We are in the village of Suktia, and on the surface, this place looks like a picture of peace and prosperity. You've got farmers and herders all living in what seems like perfect harmony. And today is a very, very big day. Just imagine it. The whole village is out, everyone dressed in their absolute finest, most brilliant clothes. There's music playing, people are dancing, the air is just filled with this sense of pure joy. It's a massive celebration, the entire community's there. But you might be asking, whose birthday is it? Well, the guest of honor isn't a person. Nope. It's Ramita, the chief's cow. And she is not just any cow, okay? She is la vache qui fait les calculs, the cow that does calculations. In Suktia, she's treated like a genius, a total celebrity, a local hero who is celebrated for an intelligence that is, frankly, borderline supernatural. The village's musician Griot, he's like a traditional storyteller. He just captures the mood perfectly. He's singing about drinking the magic milk from their chosen one. This isn't just about a smart cow anymore. This elevates Ramita to an almost mythical status. She's not just an animal, she's a living symbol of the village's pride. But just as the party reaches its absolute peak, everything comes to a screeching, grinding halt. Because the guest of honor, the star of the whole show, she's missing. So the chief, he's just swelling with pride. He calls for Ramita to be brought forward for the cake cutting. The crowd cheers, they're waiting for this grand entrance. And then, just silence. Nothing. No cow appears. And just like that, the festive mood completely evaporates, and it's replaced by confusion and this growing sense of dread. The chief's pride just instantly sours into pure disbelief. He cannot wrap his head around what his aide is telling him. Looking for her? What do you mean you're looking for her? How could she possibly be gone? His authority is being challenged right there in front of everyone, and he does not like it one bit. And that disbelief, it quickly curdles into pure, unfiltered rage. See, the chief doesn't even consider for a second that she might have just wandered off. No. This has to be a malicious act, a betrayal. His mind immediately leaps to conspiracy, and he just unleashes this torrent of insults, desperate to find someone, anyone, to blame. And this is where the chief completely loses it. The punishment he threatens is as absurd as it is violent, a completely unhinged and wildly disproportionate reaction. His ego has been wounded, and now he wants blood. So yeah, this is not about a missing cow anymore. The chief's paranoia, it's like a virus. It infects the entire village, and it exposes the fact that this fragile peace they had, it was just an illusion all along. The search for Ramata just descends into a complete and utter farce. Driven by the chief's fury, the villagers start looking everywhere, no matter how illogical. They're checking inside hen houses, they're peering under beds, they're even inspecting cooking pots, as if a full-grown cow could somehow be hiding in any of these places. And of course, as the ridiculous search turns up nothing, suspicion quickly morphs into accusation. The long, simmering tensions between the village's two main groups, the farmers and the herders, they just boil over. The farmers are convinced the herders stole the cow. The herders believe the farmers framed them out of pure jealousy. And just like that, the community splinters right along its oldest fault lines. The search might be comical, and the finger-pointing might seem petty, but the consequences, they are anything but. You see, the chaos around the missing cow doesn't create the violence, it just unleashes the violence that was already lurking right beneath the surface. And this is where the play takes a very dark turn, revealing a tragedy that was already there. A woman named Naka shares the story of her young daughter, Nadia, who had been brutally assaulted by a herder before the cow ever went missing. So all this existing injustice and anger, which had been suppressed, now finds a violent outlet in this new crisis. The conflict becomes a pretext to settle old scores. And here is the brutal reality. This ridiculous situation sparked by a missing, calculating cow leads to horrific, very real losses. In the conflict that follows, 170 cattle are slaughtered, 5 people are killed, 2 herders and 3 farmers. A farce has officially become a tragedy. The conflict spirals so far out of control that it actually gets national attention. The village of Sokcha is now teetering on the brink of a civil war. The local police, they just can't handle it anymore. The situation has gotten so severe that the army has been called in. A garrison of special forces is getting ready to descend on the village to impose order by force. And all of this, remember, all of this started because one cow went for a walk. And then the punchline. Amidst all the nationwide panic and the military mobilization, the chief's wife just happens to wander into her kitchen. And there, tucked away behind a big pot and a sack of her favorite snack, is Ramita. She was never stolen, she wasn't abducted, she was just hungry. So when the truth finally comes out, the blustering, furious chief, the one who threatened to hang people by their sensitive parts, the man who set his entire community on fire, he's confronted with this ridiculous reality and the weight of his own foolishness, the sheer shame of it all, in front of the very people he incited. It's too much. He just collapses. So what is the point of this absolutely wild story? It's funny, sure, but the playwright, Luc Alanda Koubidina, he had a much deeper, much more serious purpose in mind. The playwright actually explains that the story isn't just from his imagination. It's grounded in extensive, real-world research. He spent time interviewing farmers and herders all across Togo, documenting their lives, their struggles, and the very real, often violent conflicts that erupt between them. So, at the end of the day, the story of Ramita, the calculating cow, is a metaphor. It's an allegory for just how fragile peace can be. It shows how a seemingly minor, even ridiculous, incident can act like a spark on the dry tinder of old resentments and social tensions and start a devastating fire. And that leaves us with one last question to think about. The story of Sukatia, it's an extreme example. It's a caricature for sure. But it forces us to ask, how many real-world conflicts, big and small, have started over something that, in hindsight, seems just as trivial and just as absurd as a missing cow in a kitchen?